Warning. Warning. This podcast is not for the faint of heart. We keep it real and raw and talk about issues that other podcasts wouldn't dare. This is the Truth of the Matter podcast with Dr. Spencer. Step into our world. What do you do if you fall in love with one of your kids' friends who's over 18? How do you handle getting caught in bed with your boss? Why do girls like bad boys? Are you burned out from an unbalanced career and personal life? Are you still working while your kids are telling you how their days went? Our passion is to help people in relationships, anyone you have a connection with in life, neighbors, coworkers, family, spouse, kids, yourself, and helping you achieve the work-life balance. Let's have some fun and let's get educated. This is the Truth of the Matter podcast. And now your host, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer.
Well, hello, everyone. Yeah, excuse me. Jeez, look, I don't edit. So, hello, everyone. I am so sorry. It's been one of those days. Trust me, it has been. But I am here with you tonight with Mr. Hark Henry. Now, let me just say one thing. He is esteemed, okay? His accomplishments is unsurpassed, okay? So let me just start there. I actually had to make sure that I had everything in check because when I say accomplished, family man, podcaster, like everything. But let me just tell you just some of the things that he does because I'm going to let him go more into detail because, I like to make sure that everyone has the information to follow everyone because I don't want to just have information that could help someone, but there's other people who can also help you as well. And you might like listening to them. So again, like I said, I have Mr. Hark Henry here. He is the co-host of the Here's Day Thursday podcast and Two Harks online radio shows and brand ambassador of the online boutique Sons of SP Phillips, which sells and resells new and slightly used apparel and clothing for men and women. So I want to say thank you so very much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. So as we were talking earlier, we mentioned about tonight talking about dating, being in a relationship with a married woman. I've been in a relationship with a married man. So we want to talk about that a little bit because, sometimes people always give the person on the side a bad rap. They always talk negatively about it. But, sometimes it's more to it than what we think. And, it depends on where you are in your, in your life and where they are in their life. So let me ask you a question, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Like you mentioned, you said, I dated someone married. Right. So how did it start off for you?
Well, thank you for bringing me on here. I'm excited to do this podcast. It started, the person that we're going to discuss in detail, we actually worked together. So it started at work. She was a lot older than I was. I was late 20s. And she was 14 years older than me. And this relationship went on for quite a while, even after I started dating someone else at our work who was also older, who was not legally separated. So I had a little triangle going on there for a long time, but I was able to handle it. For whatever reason. I was young, just living a single life, just kind of doing the things that I wanted to do. And that was one of the things that I wanted to do at the time.
Okay, so how long did it last?
More than 10 years.
Really?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact number, but it was about 10 plus years. And then both of them went on for a while. I was able to balance them because they didn't like each other. And So they didn't really communicate, and one, I don't want to get too far off of what we're going to discuss, because one, we'll call, they were always 1 and 2. So number one, we'll call, people in my circle call her old reliable. And Doc, I'm not proud of some of this stuff, but
no, come on now. When you're in your 20s, you gotta get a pass now. You gotta get a pass, especially when you're in your 20s now.
Right. And the second one, we'll just call her teacher. So so old reliable, I met her first. She was actually married, but they were on the outs and stuff like that. And the teacher I met a couple years later, when she started working in our, because I worked in the school system. So when she started working in our building, I met her. She and I started a relationship that kind of went on for about the same amount of time. And like I said, they didn't like each other, so they really didn't interact. And old reliable only worked in our building part-time. So, it wasn't like she was around me all the time. And, there was some conflict from the teacher, and she's like, I'm hearing this. I'm like, nah, she's just a friend, this and stuff like that. But she only knew what she knew. And old reliable, she kind of only knew what she knew or what she wanted to know. So it all balanced out. And, there was other people, caught in the mix, some, other relationships caught in the mix, but there was definitely a reason for it. So yeah, it went on for quite a while.
No, I understand, and I know sometimes people will say, why would you do this? You should feel bad. That person was married, all these things, right? But until you're in that situation, you can't really pass judgment because you don't know. And sometimes things just start as friends.
Right.
You don't always set out to say, I want to date somebody who's married. It doesn't always start out that way. And sometimes you don't even know. And like I said, in your 20s, you kind of get a pass when it comes to things because, you're still exploring, still trying to know yourself. You may not want any responsibility. I know I didn't.
Right.
I was responsible for myself. I did not care what you had going on in your personal life. I didn't care about any of that. Only thing I knew, I wanted to have fun, and that was it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. Because like I said, I was in my late 20s, and I was attracted to older women because in my head, I know that most older women have been through most of the garbage. They're, whether they've been divorced or had bad relationships, kids are half grown, they just want to do their thing. And my thought was like, they're not going to commit because at that time the girls my age were on something totally different, and I wasn't one who was going to chase anybody. But me thinking this is how older women roll, I was sadly mistaken, because just like any other woman, eventually your feelings get involved, their feelings get involved, and things start to happen, and it's just like any other relationship. If eventually they're going to ask a question, or what are we doing here? But my end goal was never to marry somebody older than me. So that's why I just kind of, like you said, no responsibility. I didn't care what they had going on, whether they were older or married or whatever. That was just my objective, just dating women as I seen fit. And before we got on, I told you, there's a lot of sometimes in the things that we do and the way we come up, there's like, some mental health issues, and or a personal issue. I don't know. You're the doctor. You might be able to explain it. But my thing, like when I was in high school, I didn't have a lot of girlfriends. So when I got older, became of age, started feeling myself, growing into myself, the women start coming. So, I had a job, I had a car, I didn't have kids, had my own place. I was a hot commodity. And I didn't have any baggage. So it was I'm not bragging, but I'm just saying the situation, it was in some situations, it was easy to talk
Yeah.
to certain women. No baby mama drama, none of that. I didn't need anybody's money. I did what I want. I came and go as I please, and I didn't have any expectations on anybody.
Oh yeah, you were definitely a hot commodity. No
Right.
kids, job, car, career, money, everything. Oh yeah, you definitely was a hot commodity. Attractive,
Right.
absolutely. I mean,
Hmm.
2 or 3 women probably like, hey, I want to check it out. And sometimes what I find is if you're honest with a person, they
Hmm.
are okay with being the other person, depending on the situation. They're completely okay with that. I know for me, again, like I said, I didn't want anything other than we're going out and have a good time. And
Yeah.
from the woman's perspective, because you gave from your perspective for mine, honestly, it was great because my thing is we're going to go out, we're going to go every place that I can't afford to go to, and we're going to
Hmm.
have a good time. And then after
Right.
that, we're going to go home,
Right.
and you're her problem, and
Right.
vice versa. I don't
Right.
have to deal with that. Once
Yep.
I go home, boom, that's it. And then I'm going to tell you, because this is always like a myth that people have. So
Hmm.
say for instance, it's, holidays. They'll say, well, today is Christmas Day. You're not going to get a gift, unless it's Christmas Eve or the day after.
Hmm.
You don't care.
Right.
I didn't care.
Right.
It did not bother me. Go stay with your children. Go do all these things. I am okay with that.
Right.
Valentine's Day, we don't spend Valentine's Day. Okay. And in my mind, I was thinking, like, you know what? Your mind is there, but your heart is over here.
Right.
And honestly, everyone is not a liar, right? Sometimes when you're the other person,
Hmm.
you're free because you already know what it is coming into it.
Right.
So you can be honest. But what I found is, like for me, when I first met him, he said, save my number as number 1. Okay, you sure? Yes. No feelings. I said, okay. But
Right.
he developed feelings. So
Exactly.
to your point, someone always develops feelings.
They do. They do. And we also have to look at ourselves. We were their escape from whatever they were trying to get away from. And I took that role again, like you said. We didn't care. We were having fun. We were doing what we wanted to do. um I we'd set up a time to meet, do whatever. See you later. And that's pretty much how it went for um that time. And then we had other people invested in it, like her side of the family knew, and some of people my circle knew, and people her circle would cover for her. And we're
Yeah.
we're we're showing up places like, like when our work friends, when we have a get together, we're showing up together and leaving together and things like that. And they knew. And like I
Yeah.
said, the other one, she knew what she knew, but she was never invited anywhere. So um it was what it was.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing too, right?
Hmm.
Because remember back in the day where people say you only bringing certain people home to meet your family, especially your mama. Well,
Hmm.
guess what? Sometimes your family and your mama know what's going on too.
Yeah, yeah. um I did that. And her and my mom started linking up, and I'm like, no, you're gonna have to cut that off. And I'm yeah, because I told my mom some of the situation. She don't know what we talking about now.
Yeah.
But yeah, my mom wanted to share numbers with her, call her, and I told her, you know nah, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So
Yeah. Like, nah, ma, look, you don't got too close now. That's not
mhm.
what we're supposed to do. You
Right.
know, you don't
Right.
mess with the whole equation. You're right.
Yeah. Right. And and also in my situation, I don't know if you had this. It also became, how can I say it? Like, trust, comfortable. Um, I knew I had somebody who had my back,
Yeah.
so that really complicated a lot of things for me as well. And I dealt with it. Spiritually, it tore me up for a long time. I had to deal with it spiritually because I knew better.
Right.
And one day my buddy called me out of the blue, because he knew about her, but he called me out the blue, and I said, "Hey man, what's up?" And he said, "Hey, my mom called me and was talking about you." And I said, "Well, what'd she say?" She said that she said God gave her a scripture to give to me. And I was
Oh,
like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Seriously?" Yeah. And I couldn't, I knew what it was, but I couldn't find it. I meant to get it before we got on. But it was a scripture in Proverbs. And if you know your Bible, Proverbs is considered like the knowledge chapter. And the scripture had something to do about with the older woman inviting the young man in to her home, and some other things. And it was just like dead on to the situation. And I didn't know what to do. And it just tore me up, because again, I knew better. I'm getting these revelations, I'm getting all this side stuff, but I just couldn't tear myself away from it.
right. And that's the difficult part, because you're right. Like for me, this is the first time I'm saying this.
Hmm.
So here I am having a good time, but I was a trustee at the church.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Wow.
That was crazy. So look, I'm sorry, y'all saints, please don't inbox me. Don't do it. I'm just letting you know.
Hmm.
'Cause I thought God said to come as you are. Well, he
Right.
probably mean that, but But
Right.
seriously, like I will go to work Monday through Friday, go to
Hmm.
Bible study on Wednesday. He and I were hanging out Friday and Saturday.
Hmm.
Sunday, I'm up. Nah, I can't do this on Sunday. I'm going to church.
Right. Right.
You know,
Right.
I'm in church.
Yeah.
Happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so,
um no, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, it's I mean I could go all day with this, because it's like I'm talking to myself right now, because you're saying the exact same things that
Yeah.
I was going through, the same things that I was feeling, the sneaking, the back door movements, the setups we had to do to make sure nobody catches us. And we're doing the sneaking part, but then we also invest in people into what we got going on.
Yeah.
And she also had two daughters, and one daughter was special needs, and she didn't give like complete sentences. She could say things, she was kind of autistic, but like she would be on the phone with me, and her daughter would walk by, and I could hear her saying my name, asking, is that Joseph? Is that Joseph? Because I mean, because I had met her, and she had
Yeah.
built that connection to me. Then she had another daughter who was in high school. And I mean, she knew. And when I went back to school to take some math classes, and I've never been good at algebra and all that, she used to come over and tutor me. So, so people was invested with what we had going on. And I tell my wife about it. She's like, "What? I can't believe." I'm like, "Babe, it's I was rough back then, but yeah." And I used to own pit bulls, and they were the only ones who could come over and let them out when I was out of town. So that's just how deep the river, or how much it flowed. It was pretty deep, and like I said, it went on for a long time.
Wow. The tutor.
Yeah, she was my tutor.
Dog walker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like people, I'm telling you, like it's crazy, because sometimes, like as a woman, people may say, "Oh, that's his side piece. That's whatever
Right.
vernacular they like to use."
Right.
But sometimes that's not always the side piece, the side chick, or whatever people like to say. That's you're their other woman. You're their other man. You know, and I will say sometimes the other person knows more about you than your spouse.
Yeah, I will agree with that because there were times when um, her and the other one weren't the only ones I were dating at the time. You know, I was doing all kind of stuff, but everybody didn't get treated the same, and I found myself kind of doing things with old reliable that I would just do with a random person, and I had to tell her a few times, I don't want to do that because I don't really see you in that light, you know, as a random. And I you know, the sneaking started to get to me because like you said, you're building, they know you better than that other person, and you see them a little different because this is somebody, even though we were doing this, she actually had my back on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And some of the sneaking and the back door started to bother me. And I said, I don't see you in that light. And I said, it bothers me a little bit. And, you know, just treating, yeah, well, yeah. And, you know, so we just had to, we worked our way around it for a little bit. And then, you know, it became what it was.
Like, that was it.
The closure was, I told her one day, well, there was a couple closers, but the first part of the closure was, I told her that I'm getting to the point where I'm seriously considering getting into a serious relationship with somebody. And it don't look, and I told her, I said, it doesn't look like you're going to make any moves to do what needs to be done. So I said, I'm just letting you know, this is what's coming down the pipe. And
wow.
So I told her about the teacher, because remember I said they didn't like each other.
Right.
So I told her, I said, and just to let you know, I've been with the teacher. When I'm not with the teacher, most of the time when I'm not with you, I'm with the teacher. She was like, but I thought you hated her. I said we didn't get along because we both had strong personalities. But I said, yeah, we've had something going on for just as long, but I had kind of ended it with her too. So it was just to a point where I was coming clean with a lot of stuff, and I was just kind of letting her know this is what's coming and this is going to end pretty soon.
Wow. So wait a minute, with the teacher, because it seemed like you spent a lot of time with the old faithful.
I did.
More than the teacher?
Mostly. Because me and Old Reliable, we could only meet up a certain time after work or somewhere, because we knew what time, we knew where he worked at, and we knew exactly what time he would get off work and be home. So we had to get in what we had to get in and go do what we have to do. And because he was out doing his thing too. So when he left, then she would call me, we might go somewhere. But like being together at night, I might be with the teacher or one of my other randoms. But yeah, I think I would be safe. I would safe to say I probably was with the Old Reliable more than the teacher.
So you had somebody every day.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yep.
Look, it is what it is. It's about being honest, right?
Yeah.
It's about being honest with yourself. I have to say, even now, I look back, and those were the best and most fun times of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like we were in our own little world. Like
exactly.
Like, you know, secret lovers. Like that's who we are. Like that's who we were.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And I have to say that he taught me so much. Right. Just different things. Like he just really taught me. And believe it or not, like when you're used to, like from a woman's perspective, being in relationships that were not good, mm-hmm. even if somebody comes along and you know they have another situation, but they mm-hmm. treat you great, it's almost like even during those times, it kind of makes up for everything. You know, it's like phenomenal. I know, like even being at cookouts, being at parties, or whatever, and he's there, and the wife is there. And it's crazy because I kind of felt bad, but then I got over it. I used to talk to his wife like, girl, you better keep him. Because I knew you better keep him, girl. She was like, oh my God, you know how he all sarcastic. No, girl, you gotta just work with him. And that's the thing about women. Stop always telling another woman about your man, because you could be telling the wrong person. For me, I was like, no, hang on in there. I'm giving you little pointers, to hang in there, because I don't want them, but we having a good time.
Right.
And the crazy thing about it, you're right. Like even the family was riding with it too. They sitting in church with me. They on the boards.
Yeah.
And then like I'm coming home and I'm saying, oh, I can't let people see my car. I got friends because like, oh, take my car. We're in people's cars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're going downtown. We're doing everything. And I said, those are the best times because it's like certain places, certain, like, for instance, expensive restaurants. We getting presidential suites. We're doing all kinds of things. That's because that's my fantasy. You know what I mean? And we had a great time. And one thing I have to say, and I know it's going to be people who are going to be judgmental, he was so respectful then, and he still is. You know what I mean? Very respectful. Now, do we still get down? No, because I got tired of it. I was like, nah. Everyone else, some things just get tired. And when you're ready to settle down, it's like, nah, I'm kind of done with that. It was like a phase. Right.
Now you a little bit bolder than me. I didn't ever cross paths with her. I did once or twice, but it was after he found out. But we still kept rocking. But
I'm sorry, wait a minute. When he found out,
he found out
that it was you.
Yeah, he found out.
Well, wait a minute. What was that conversation like?
Well, and this was late in the, getting close to the end, and she was talking, getting careless and reckless on the phone one night, because usually he's gone and he's out doing his thing, and it's always what's hold on, I'll use this phrase, chickens coming home to roost. It's okay when he doing it, but then when they come to it now back on him, he gets upset. So yeah, she got careless on the phone talking about, I'd rather be over there, this type of crazy stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, and once she hung up the phone, I guess he was standing there behind her listening to the conversation. So whatever happened after that, she had hell to pay for that, for whatever happened. And then we chilled out for about a week or something. Then she came over one day in her dad's car, and we were walking my dogs, and he followed her. We didn't know he was parked down the street, and then we came. We was walking the dogs, talking to the neighbors, and I mean, it sounds insane. And he rolled up, and he was like, "Oh, he had a lot to say." But he was a little old guy. So I just told him, I said, don't talk to me. You talk to her, because obviously it's something wrong going on over there if she's over here. So I said, don't you say nothing to me. So we had some words, and, again, he went home and she had some hell to pay after that. And she a few days later, she had some timeshares. Her parents had some timeshares in Vegas that she had to go get rid of. But he thought, when he found out about me, he thought we was planning a trip to Vegas, and we wasn't. So when she went to the airport, he showed up with a ticket to her flight, and she had hell to pay then. So, but we kept rocking there for a little while. But then I kind of busted him out in the bar one day, up in a woman's face, because I was working at a bar and I heard his voice, and I said, well, what's up? And he didn't have nothing to say. So, after that, that was the last I ever saw of him, heard of him.
Wow. Of her too?
No, we went on a little bit longer. um, but the final nail in the coffin for me was I joined I joined to be a Freemason, and I found out he was one too at an adjoining lodge. And in Freemasonry we have a I'm forgetting my words right now. We have an obligation to be just and upright men. And I had one of my buddies vouch for me to be, you have to have somebody vouch for you and say that you're of good rapport. And, he vouched for me, even though I had this stuff going on. And as I'm studying my word and everything like that, that's part of our obligation not to mess around with another brother's wife.
Yeah,
And
but I mean, come on now. The Masons, go to one of them dances or convention. You and the wife here, but your woman at the other end of the hallway.
nah, not me. Not me. I took that obligation. I take it seriously. I take a couple of things. I take seriously. I take being a man seriously, and I took that obligation seriously. Um, I come from 3 generations of Freemasonry, so knowing that my grandfather and my father had all was raised to that sublime degree, I took it very serious. So every word in that book, I still live by it. And I even told her, I said, this is in the book, and I can't do this anymore. And she said, that's not going to mean anything. So, so her thinking just started getting a little bit more twisted. And I said, yeah, I got to get out of this sooner or later.
Yeah, no, you know what? You did the right thing. You really did, because I tell you, I done been to some of them parties, the conventions and different things, and had a ball.
Yeah.
I done had a ball. They must ain't read the chapters you read.
No, they probably did. Because I know a lot of them move up into the shrine so they can party and all that stuff. So I'm like, I'm good. I'm gonna stay right here where I'm at, because this is better fit for me.
Oh yeah, when they had them conventions and they coming from everywhere, you partying.
Yeah, and she's an Eastern Star, so I'm like, I don't want to cross them paths. So a lot of things start coming to light, and like I said, spiritually it was tearing me up. So a lot of things start coming to light, and I just like, I got to stop doing this.
Not the Eastern Star.
No, I didn't do that.
But you know what I'm telling you, took it very serious, and I appreciate that. I really do, because again, I mean, I've grown up in that type of situation.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, I've seen women when it comes to them. Shoot, I remember going. You got the red ball where everybody wearing red. You got this, you got that. And them balls last the whole weekend.
Yep.
You partying the whole weekend. Like I said, I see where, you in room 101 with your wife, but your woman or your man 2 doors down. I mean, and where you gonna say, where have you been? Well, guess what? You're at the after party. It's 1,000 people in these hotels.
Yeah.
So you always have a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in hospitality. I'm in here. I'm in there. I mean, you're partying. You're having a great time.
Yeah. It is easy to get lost in that, because like you said, they come from all over.
Everywhere.
And they link up. And when I was raised to my degree of Master Mason, I was still young. I was in my 30s. I was probably mid 30s. So, I still had a little sauce on me, but I was like, nah, this is it. This is it for me.
Well, you're right. I mean, they read the Bible, they all kinds of stuff. No, it'd be serious. You could be serious. I applaud you.
Yeah, because because I knew better, and I just really wasn't raised that way. And and I tell people, it wasn't my proudest moment, but when I look back, now that I'm much older, and I look back and I can start connecting the dots of why I was doing this and why I was with her, and why I did the other things that I did, it starts to make sense. It's just, it's, like I said, it was the uh, not having girlfriends in high school. So at this point in my life, I'm compensating
Right.
for what I didn't have. Um, and even though I was into something that I shouldn't have been in, I struggled with it, but I didn't want to let it go.
Right. And you
Right.
made a good point, right?
Right.
So like for me, especially in school, I'm heavy, right? Well, I guess you call it heavy, right? So I'm really heavy. And now I've lost the weight. And now you're right. I'm like, okay. So now everybody want to talk to me now, right?
Right. Right.
You as one of my coworkers said, oh no, your stock just went up. You're like a hot commodity now. I'm like,
Yeah.
really? And so now that you're like, okay. So it's almost like you feel like you're making up for lost time, if you will. Or, you're like, oh no, since, all these people, they overlooked me. Now here I am.
Right. Right. And again, I feel like I'm just talking to myself because you're right on point with everything of how I felt and how I looked at things. Because later on, after the fact, I'm dating girls that I went to school with who never looked at me twice in high school, or girls from the neighborhood who never looked at me. We're going on dates, or we're talking, and we're doing this, and we're actually holding conversations.
Yeah.
And when you get that, you're like, oh, I'm gonna hold on to this because it's like new money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. It's like new money. And then for me, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I had to do like Nas, like made you look.
Yeah.
See, it's the truth. Like think about it.
Right.
Jay-Z wasn't getting women. He became a billionaire. Now everybody wants.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Same person. He just look a little different now because money looks a little different, but he's still the same person.
Right. Biggie said it. Heart throb never, black and ugly as ever. However, I stay Coochie down to the socks.
Right. Look at him. Lil' Kim.
Yeah.
Babe.
Yep.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes subtle changes make a person look real attractive.
It does.
And I'm going to tell you the truth. I was greedy. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts. I want to go and do everything that I ever wanted to do. And I don't want to spend my money. And that's just how it was. And you're right. Like I said, when he started developing feelings, I'm like, well, I'm going out with so-and-so. He's like, why? You got a wife. Like, why are you trying to control me? You're going home to your wife. Like, this was just a time, right? Like a season.
Right.
The season almost over. Just like seasons, 4 seasons. Your season about to be over. Fall coming in.
Right.
About to be winter. But I have to say though, even living alone and even in Jersey, like when my car got snowed in, I remember we had like 26 inches. Guess what? He was over there early in the morning getting me out. If I needed something, that's why I was like, sometimes even the wives like, I don't know if you don't get it or whatever or care or however way it is, but like, wait a minute, you've gone away for like 2 or 3 days. Like, what did you tell her? But then again, I don't care what you tell her because I'm having a good time.
Right. And we've had situations because there's been nights where she spent the night. Yeah. And I'm just like, shouldn't you be going home? And she's like, whatever. And like, but people on her circle who knew would cover for her. Yeah. And say that she was over there and she was over here. And there's been multiple times when I needed some money for whatever reason. She would dig into her account and his account and give me the money. And, I mean, I honestly felt like, she had my best interest because after he found out, he was trying to get her to, from how she said it, set me up. So I guess he could do something to me. I don't know. And my neighbor told me one night there was some guys outside my house. And I was like, well, if he wanted, he could come get it. But I told her, I said, well, if he trying to do something to me, I need some information. So she gave me everything, his social security, his date of birth, his mama's information. She gave me all this information on him, because if he, if he come for me, I'm coming back at him, and I'm gonna hit him where it hurt, because he had a lot of money, so I was gonna hit him where it hurt. But he, after I saw him at the club and busted him out, he kind of kept quiet after that. And I forgot I had it. I found that information in my old wallet a couple years ago, and I just tossed it. So,
wow.
yeah.
No, I understand exactly what you mean. I mean, but one thing about it is when you're in these type of situations, it's almost like them tables can turn too. Because I'm thinking it's just me and him. Well, guess what? He had somebody else, and she was married. And I'm like, for real?
Yeah.
And, that was a crazy situation. Like, I never forget. I always go to his house because he had I couldn't afford it. I didn't have it. Like these, them deep jacuzzi and they deep tubs. I'm in there like, yeah, I'm enjoying myself.
You were bold.
Bold. Listen to music.
I never went in the house.
Yeah, listen to music. Next thing you know, she was like Tisha Campbell and Boomerang outside the window. She looking at me. I'm looking at her. I'm looking at her. She's looking at me. And I'm like, this ain't going to end well.
Right.
This ain't going to end well. Stuff like that. Like I said, when that karma hits you, it hits different. And mom upstairs, it was like a multi-family house. Mom upstairs, like, look, we're gonna all come in here and talk. I'm like, no, mom, we don't talk about this ain't that type of situation.
Right.
We don't talk. But again, same thing, everybody involved. But come to find out, she had my information. You know why? Because her husband was a cop.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, yeah, her husband was a cop. And the crazy thing about that was, like I said, she was married. He was not. They were dating. She couldn't do too much, but she got my information. I was like, all right, I'm going to turn the tables on you. Because guess what? I know your husband paid your mortgage. I'm calling internal affairs. And I'm going to get your information. And it didn't end well. But come to find out, when I was like 16, 17, I worked with this lady. I just didn't recognize her. And she didn't recognize me. And that was crazy. I mean, we had worked together, but she's seeing him. And, sometimes when people are in relationship, like we were saying earlier, you're in relationship, but you think that person ain't supposed to see anybody else. Like you're married, you think he ain't supposed to see somebody else. But he ain't telling me about you because I would have been cool with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm cool. But now I got to deal with her and the crazy jumping over the fence in the wintertime, got all my information. Now you gonna do all this to me, and I'm like, okay, but I got a crazy mama, like, yeah, bring it. So now my mom go to her job, and then we done called up internal affairs with the husband. I'm like, this is crazy. And to have to explain that, you're like, this ain't well. We're like an unhappy family.
Yeah, you had a couple triangles going on there. I wasn't that deep.
I enjoyed it, but like I said, shoot, it was crazy because we had, like, he and I, we went to plays, we went to movies, and come to find out he done seen the damn thing 2 or 3 times with other people. And I'm like, for real?
Yeah.
Okay. But again, you're right. When it's over, it's like it's over, and you don't look back. You're like, we're good.
Yeah. When, towards the end, when I was like seriously looking into relationships, we had brief conversations, and when I did something so crazy, I was talking to somebody else that we worked with.
You gotta stick with jobs.
Yeah, I don't do that anymore. But she was a younger woman. I had a house party, and Old Reliable came, and the other girl came, but nobody. I think one of my buddies knew, and the younger girl, she spilled something on my floor, and so the party was coming in the end, and she was trying to stay, And she said, I can clean it up. It's no problem. I can stay and clean it up. And Over was sitting there looking. I'm like, no, it's cool. I can, cause she said, no, I can clean it up. I can just stay. I'll stay after and clean up. But she was just trying to stay over.
Yeah.
So, that was, I didn't let that happen because I knew I was going to have to hear something about it. So I didn't let that happen. But once I actually found my wife soon after, it was pretty much a wrap for me. I was done.
Wow. So
I'm sorry.
That's what I wanted to ask you about the wife. How'd you transition to your wife, your now wife?
I met my wife on the internet. So I'm a spiritual person. I believe in God. I believe in the power of prayer. And I tell everybody the story because my dad was a minister, and he always said, pray along the way, much prayer, much power, little prayer, little power, no prayer, no power. So my uncle pulled me to the side and he said, you got to do what your daddy tells you to do. You got to pray. And he said, when you pray, you give God details of what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, if you just pray and communicate with God, say, I just want a woman, he'll give you anything. And he said, I've had a couple anythings. He said, you want a woman, here you go. So I took that seriously. And I gave God details of the type of woman that I wanted. And I needed someone strong enough to pull me away from what was going on. Someone who knew God, someone who could deal with my stubborn attitude, someone who can equal me in every way. And I prayed for the shape, size, height, and everything. And in that process, I also had to be obedient to what God needed me to do. So I had to I had to get these thoughts. I had to clean myself of the impurities that were, calling me back. And, I had to cut off full contact, which was difficult because she kept calling. And it was just one situation where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. So when I saw my wife's picture, before I even met my wife, I saw her picture and I said, that's going to be my wife. And that was it for me.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because the same thing, is weird. Because I was like, nah, I want to get married. You know what I mean? Like, I got tired of that after a while. It was like a fad. It came in, it was great. And then it left, but then when you're ready to settle down, it's like, nah. It got boring after a while, believe it or not.
Yeah, it for me to be that person, it takes a lot of energy, and it's draining.
Yeah.
And then dealing with that person, I always had large amounts of regret and small amounts of depression. After we had sex or whatever, and I'm just like, I'm going through it. I'm waiting for her to leave to get out so I can just go figure it out, because I'm spiritually and mentally I'm going through it, because emotionally I'm detached, and I don't know, out of those three, I don't know which one was worse, being spiritually tore up, mentally messed up, or emotionally unattached. I can't tell which was worse because they were all, I was suffering on all three, because I had this person that I had around and I was treating her right purely out of convenience to my own selfish needs. When I knew for a fact it was becoming more to her, but I'm like, you're not going to do the necessary work to handle your part. So this is where I'm going at this point.
Yeah, no, I understand exactly what you mean. It's like you want to break it off, but they keep calling.
Yeah.
It keeps calling. It keeps calling. I always look at it like a cliffhanger, right? You're like, okay, you know what? It's over, and then boom, they pop back up.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, we out. They pop back up, and it's like every now and then they keep popping back up.
Yeah, I had an ex-girlfriend. Do you believe in soul ties?
Yeah.
I think I had one of those. I met her early on, way before I met my wife, and she, the thing I wanted was somebody to pull me away from the school teacher and reliable. And this one I was dating, she was doing it, but she was just moving too fast for me. So we just kind of broke it off. And then she eventually went and got married. But it's like, as soon as, like, because my parents loved her. So if her name would come up, or I'd see something in the house that used to belong to her that I didn't get rid of, or something, like within a day she would call or reach out. And this went on for a long time too. And but when I told her I was engaged, that finally stopped that. And I told her I didn't appreciate her calling me, trying to get me all confused. This is after she's married. And I'm like, I'm not trying to get into another one of those. So we finally ended that too. So yeah.
Wait, the funny part, you said get me confused.
yeah, because she was like, well, I should have waited. And I said, well, yeah, you should have waited. That was on you. But I look at situations like that, because if they didn't happen, they wasn't supposed to happen. Me and my wife happened. So this is where I'm supposed to be. Everybody else was just kind of passing through until she got through the door. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, it's so weird because we're talking and I'm like, wow, that's like my story. know? It's like they're so similar, because I know even we're divorced now, but my ex says I met him online, the same thing. It's like how you talk to people and your stories are parallel. Now, we're not together now, but however, it's like it came at the perfect time.
Right.
It was the perfect opportunity for that to happen, because I felt like even my other situations, I'm like, I don't know how long that would have gone on for. But I did know that I got tired after a while, It's like, it becomes draining, and you're right. And it's like, honestly, I'm talking to different people, forgetting what we're talking about. They're like, you remember? And I'm like, no, 1 second. Yeah, I'm like forgetting things and different conversations and things like that. And I'm like, I can't be bothered with all of that. Like I'm over it, But but thank you so very much, Thank you so very much for jumping on this call. I really appreciate it. Like I said, our stories are overlapping. So tell them, where can they find you now? Before you even go into all that, just know that you're going to be following him, because when I save this, you are going to have all of his socials, because he has a podcast too, like we mentioned earlier. So let him know what you want to leave with.
All right. So my podcast is the Thursday podcast. That's spelled #TheHersday, Thursday podcast. So Anchor and Spotify. We have an online radio show on gospelimpactradio.com every Sunday at 4 p.m. That's me and my wife, the Her. My Facebook for our podcast is 2 Harks, the number 2, HARKS. And our online store, Sons of SP Phillips. The Instagram is Sons of SPP, and the website is sonsofspphillips.com, where you can get this cool t-shirt, the Multicultural United States of America. We have it's like an online thrift store, but we have custom t-shirts for where we're representing the culture, encouraging women to be gorgeous. We have t-shirts that represent African Americans and the different cultures. We're just trying to give back, support the culture. We inspired by the people, motivated by the culture, and we're trying to save people some money. Domestic violence and mental health is also some big things in our pocket that we're working with.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And like I said, everyone, if you didn't get all that, because like I said, his distinctions, are unparalleled. You will have all of this. But thank you so very much, sir. I appreciate it. I'm going to be following you too. So thank you so very much again. And everyone, have a good night. And we are out of here.
Yeah. You've been listening You've been listening to The Truth of the Matter with Dr. Spencer. Yes, we talk about taboo topics, but that's life, and we keep it real and raw. Our passion is to educate and enlighten. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review the show, and we'll be back soon. But if you have a unique relationship situation and you'd like help, or you're tired of having to choose between your career and personal life, Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer is a life alignment strategist and a certified life, relationship, and business coach. So make sure to reach out on Instagram and TikTok at Dr. Lamarr Spencer, on Twitter at Dr. Spencer 15, on Facebook at Dr. Lamarr Renee Spencer, and the website drlamarrspencer.com. Or go old school and call 973-214-6464. Don't forget to purchase the book, The Depth and Diversity with Relationships. Find it on Amazon and the website. See you next time on The Truth of the Matter.